project manager for DSI. Our company has been contracted by OSSI to develop an electronic grants management system. This is probably the second week of formalized training that we're providing to give people an introduction into the EGMS and how it works. There are several more sessions this week, and there are sessions going forward. Before we get started, I want to have Richard Rowley give a welcome from Dr. Morris Hughes' office.
Yeah, I'm Richard Rowley, and I work here at OSSI in the Office of Grants Management. It's been my fun opportunity to be able to work on EGMS, the Enterprise Grant Management System. Because so often in our jobs, we're kind of like looking towards compliance and trying to like make sure that like, everything's set up in a row. And like we're really looking forward to getting more towards forward-looking kind of things. And so EGMS here is one of those things that I'm very excited about because it's from what it is that I've been working on, for the processes that we've taken a look at and like automated. We think that we're going to be able to speed up the time and the overturn of our own work here, as well as yours. Like some of the features that Barry is going to talk about today that we've included on EGMS is the application process, which you might be familiar with, like in terms of like contacting every single different person and looking for all the RFAs. Now it's all going to be housed in one little area here, so you can be able to see what is that's available. You'll also be able to see what it is that you created and what you've applied for. And then the other feature that we have inside here that I can get goosebumps and chills about is the reimbursement process. So as you are all familiar with, like the different types of processes that we have here, do you include receipts, do you not include receipts, how quickly, basically those like are basically the number one calls we end up getting. Like, where can I find the application? And the other one is, where's my reimbursement? So now we have some great features, and hopefully I'll be back here. I'm going to be in a different meeting, but hopefully I'll be back when we talk about reimbursements, because then you'll be able to see on the screen very quickly, did you submit it? It got submitted. Did it reviewed by OSSI? Yes, it was reviewed by OSSI. I mean, it's in the queue for you to get paid, and Barry will talk about that today. One of the things that Dr. Morris Hughes usually shares is that she was here back when is that some of you may have even been submitting reimbursements like with receipts in the shoebox. And so we're very excited to automate this process and basically hopefully provide ourselves more time and you more time to be able to serve kids and learners in the district. So thank you very much for attending today. Let me know if you have any questions. I think my information is going to be on the slide. I think we also have, did Jerry introduce everybody else?
No.
So we have Nancy here. Nancy works in the Office of Grants Management and Compliance. She can answer your questions. And also Daryl, our director back there. Oh, and we also have Keyshawn, too. She'll be doing a little bit of presentation here as well. And then, did you need anything else from me?
No, I'm
okay.
good. Thank you very much.
I'll be back.
And just so everyone in the room gets an idea of who's here, can you just give your name and what organization you're representing?
My name is Charmaine McHale. I'm with BPPS, Office of Specialized Instruction on the Fiscal Management.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric Self. I'm the Business Manager with National Collegiate Prep.
Hi, my name is Dina O'Connell. I'm with ECA.
And I'm Carolyn Price, and I'm also with ECA.
Okay, great, thank you.
And I'm Renata. I'm doing Consolidated program.
One of the agents out of the ECA Office of Performance and Grants. Becky Thomas from LSED, talking on Part D.
Good morning, Dr. Monoway, Charles, URS, Program Manager for Workforce Development and Education.
The portfolio there. I'm Glenn White.
I'm Crystal Hurd. I'm also with the Office of Health Center. Good morning. I'm Keisha Wilson. I'm with the Office of Management.
And here you want to come in and receive the
Okay. And Daryl, your last name, Sam?
Project Manager for the CIO's Office, Chief Information Officer.
Okay, good morning. Since you just walked in, turn around and introduce yourself to the room.
Hello, I'm Mika Simmons. I am Grants Manager at Friendship.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm running a little behind. Richard from my team came in and did the opening remarks for me, so thank you, Richard, very much. But I want to say good morning. A lot of familiar faces. But my name is Denise Morris. Let's see, as of last week, I'm now the new Chief Operating Officer, overseeing the work with grants management, compliance, and agency operations. I'm really excited that you're going to spend some time with us today and learn about the Enterprise Grant Management System. I swear and promise you're in good hands. Ask a lot of good questions. This system is for you. We have built it for you. We think it's going to, I think especially, it's going to make your life a lot easier. I'm looking forward to multiple trainings. I'm going to do a quick little plug. If you haven't already signed up for the LEA Federal Grants Conference, we put notices in the Tuesday bulletin, notices in the LEA Look Forward. If you give us your email address, we'll send you the link directly so you can register for the conference. It's a great opportunity to learn about federal grants management and compliance. There's some new updates. There's some changes in the OMB circular. It's a great opportunity for you to learn. It's June 11th. It's at Gallaudet University. Please sign up. If you have any questions, you can find me at unique.morris@uc.gov. And thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Great. Thank you. Yes.
People log into the webinar stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have people online listening in.
Great.
Okay.
Like I'm on a different one.
Okay, great. So before I turn the lights out, I just want to go a brief overview of what we are going to be doing today. We've had introductions. I'll say expectations. Or really, this is the first glimpse that a lot of folks are going to have of the EGMS system. There are going to be a number of other training sessions. There will be other online resources available. Today is really for you to, really just kind of get a good overview. Because you're not actually working in the system today, you'll get a look and feel today. And then once you get your credentials on June 2nd, when you can actually go in the system and, walk around, play around, then you'll get a good feel for how it actually works. But what I hope you come away with today is just a good understanding of what the system's going to do, how to navigate around in it. The folks in the back of the room are the help desk department. We've asked them to sit in on training so they can understand some questions that you may have during the session. And also for them so that when you're calling in or emailing, they'll be able to quickly assist you with any problems that you may have. Dr. Morris Hughes has already talked about production rollout is June 2nd. There's a LEA conference on the 11th, a CBO conference on the 25th, both at Gallaudet University. We're going to talk about Phase 1 assurances and completion of central data requirements. We're going to make sure you understand how you see deadlines within the EGMS system. We're going to go through completing a funding application. How do you respond to comments from OSSI within the system? And then completing a reimbursement request. We'll have a couple of breaks along the way. So, if anyone feels the need that they want to take, I figure about 45 minutes or so, we'll take a break before going to the next session. So when you leave today, what should you have accomplished, or what should I have accomplished for you today? We want you to understand how to request new credentials if you don't already have them. We want you to know the user roles. We want you to be able to log into EGMS, create and submit central data collection requirements. And again, all these terms, you'll hear them over and over again. Phase 1 assurances, central data. We're going to repeat that several times during the day. Completing general assurances of Phase 1 assurance, creating and submitting a funding application, viewing comments from OSSI, and creating and submitting a reimbursement request. From a process perspective, the system works like this. We log in, we go to our Access Select, and we have a section that's called Phase 1 and Central Data Collection. Central data, you think about it from an overall organizational perspective, general information about the organization. We're introducing a new subject area called Learning Support Initiatives for K-12, and Keyshawn will speak about that in a moment. We also have a section for early learning support objectives for pre-K, and then assurances. We have global assurances, Phase 1 assurances, and for CONAP, and also for the IDEA Part B application. Within creating an application, we have a narrative section, which you're familiar with. And what I'll say, our job was to take paper applications and create the web version of them. So a lot of the content that you see is very familiar. But how we present it we've been working back and forth with the program teams to make sure that we present it in a way that's easy for you to follow, and so it flows consistently. So there'll be a narrative in addition to kind of the global assurances. Some applications have application-specific assurances that don't follow that general category. There will also be a budget development section, and then you'll be able to submit an application for review and approval. And given that this is formula grant submission, once you submit an application for review, the system has the ability to allow for a revise and resubmit functionality. And that's only on the formula grants. On the competitive grants, it's either we're going forward to review your application, or we're sorry, your application has been deemed non-responsive. Okay. You will get notification of approved application, notification of a resubmit. And once you have an approved application, you've signed all your assurances, then you'll be able to submit electronic reimbursement request. Again, the review and approval process is the same. It's all done within the system, attachments, submissions, etc. And once that's approved, then it goes on to a batch process, so it can be paid through STORE. Okay, so we are currently designing the login page. So when you go to the URL for the OSCE Grants Management System, you'll see something like this. It's a centralized place where you can learn everything there is to know about what's happening currently in OSCE Grants. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller. Information. Okay, announcements, an information section, trainings that are coming up, notices of funding availability. And again, this may change slightly from once we go online on June 2nd.
Can you turn it right up?
Oh, yes, Daryl.
Barry?
Yes, you can turn it up. Yeah, you can turn it up. Thanks, Daryl. Okay. We'll also have a login section and a notice of upcoming events. And again, this is, currently you go to the OSCE site. There are some public domains that you go to get information about when grants will become available. This really wants to be your home page, your daily check-in of what's happening with grants at OSCE. Have all of you received an email from Nancy regarding setting up initial users? No?
Are they the finance or head of school? Finance manager or head of school at your school? Okay, so then they wouldn't.
Okay, so
It's only the finance manager, so the head of school gets that email.
okay, so we've sent out requests in advance for organizations to pre-register for the system so that on June 2nd, we can email you your credentials so you can log in the system. For those of you who have not received notifications, when we take a break, I'm going to just ask you to see Nancy.
But they have to be the head of school or finance manager.
Yeah, I just want to see if someone at their organization
Oh, okay.
has pre-registered, and I think you can check that,
I
correct?
can check that.
Okay. So there are two types of registrations that we have for new users. There will be a public view of OSSI and grants on the site. But for users, let's say your organization is registered with OSSI. When you select the new user, you're going to put in your organization's federal EIN number, and if there is a match with the system, it will direct you to your location's security administrator. That security administrator will be able to log into the system and create credentials for you immediately. For new organizations to OSSI, it's a multi-step process. You're going to put in your federal EIN. If it doesn't match, it's going to ask you if you're a new organization, and as such, you'll be required to download and submit a signed W-9 and also a master supplier agreement data collection form from the district or from OSSI. You're going to upload that information into your request, and then that will be sent to the designated person within OSSI. Now that's probably a 48-hour process. So we ask you as quickly as you can after June 2nd, if your authorized representative has not already pre-registered, that someone from your organization register so that we can get your credentials. All right. So when you log into the system, based on your credentials, you'll be taken to this GMS Access Select page. And this is where you're going to select what you want to do. Before I do this, I just want to go through what the roles are. In the user manual that you were given, in the back of the user manual, there's a page that has user roles. Okay, for LEAs, there are basically three types of user roles. The highest user role is an authorized representative. An authorized representative has full access within the system to input data, to make changes. Probably the key functionality that makes this user role different from any others is only the authorized representative role can actually submit an application or reimbursement request on behalf of the organization. There's a data entry role, which allows you to create an application, fill in all required fields, but it will not let you submit an application or reimbursement request. And then there's a view-only role, which allows you to see everything but not touch, basically. So within your organization, you guys will figure out who's the authorized representative or representatives, how many data entry people you want to have, and how many view only. There is no limit on the number of data entry credentials that you set up, none on view only. As a new organization, new to OSSI, the authorized representative of your entity will have to submit for new user credentials, and only that person can submit the request. And then once the request has been approved, that person, assuming that person is the security administrator, that person will be able to grant new user roles with that. So now I'm going to go to my GMS Select button, and it's going to take me to basically. Come on. One second, guys. Okay. Once you select GMS Select, it's going to take you to kind of the brains of the operation. This is what you're going to see when you log in. Okay. There's a section for created applications, formula grants, discretionary, competitive, maintenance of efforts, central data, and also applications, what's available for you to look at. Okay, so we talked about the standard process. Once you log in, you'll go to the GMS Select, and then you'll come to this page. For the purposes of formula grants, phase 1, we will be adding in the central data section, we'll be adding a separate drop down here for CONAP phase 1 assurances and IDA Part B phase 1 assurances, just so it's easy to get to. I'm going to show you now when we go to central data, those are currently housed at the central data. Okay, so this is what we're calling central data. Central data, again, spans across the organization or the administrative offices. Just general notes, when you're looking at applications within the system, you want to read from left to right, and the tab that's highlighted or that has a white background, that's the tab that we're actually viewing. Okay, and this tab structure can have 1 to 4 levels, depending upon the amount of information we're trying to capture. And what does it tell you? It says here's the due date for central data completion. Here are the programs, purpose. Okay. We've introduced a function called Learning Support Initiatives, and I'm going to ask Keyshawn to come up and review Learning Support Initiatives and what it is. Okay.
Yep. So, good morning. Good morning. Let's try to. This might not. You guys don't need to see me, right? 'Cause you don't see me over this. It's okay. So, what are learning support initiatives? And what you will see before we begin is that we've had some time evolving for this name. So some places they were called, in the beginning they were classroom support strategies. So if you came to some of the earlier trainings, we called them classroom support strategies. Then they were learning support strategies. And now we think we got a name. It's learning support initiatives. You know, our names evolve over time. So what are they? The LSIs are basically how the LEA, the plan the LEA has to use their funds to increase student achievement. So that's what all of these funds are for. How are we going to increase student achievement? The initiative, we're federal, we're formula, to supplement, always going to supplement the LEA strategic plan. Whatever you all have, whether it's your capital commitment, it's your master plan, whatever is your strategic plan, this is how do you use these funds to supplement that plan? Based on, of course, and it should be aligned with your comprehensive needs assessment. So what does this like? This is equivalent to what are the initiatives in the CONAP. Things like investing in low struggling students, instructional technology, data-driven instruction, all of those type of things that we've already been doing. I don't know where you click here. But where does it go here? So Barry is going to show you later where it goes when we're going through the actual system. So you're going to define, it says CSI, it says CSI. We're evolving. It won't say this on June 2nd. So what is your holistic plan? You're going to say, this is going to happen the same time that you're doing phase 1. So you're going to identify what are your LSIs, and you're going to do the grant application. So we wanted to kind of give you a view of what it will look like in the application. Yep. Thank you. Why LSIs? How does it increase our capability? So one is similar to the Title I, II, and III Consolidated Application. And also, it's going to help you capture expenditures for multiple uses of funds. And we're going to give you examples of this. And remember, in the Con App, formerly we would have pages and pages of text. Now, only 4,000 characters. So it's going to be fewer words, deeper, smaller and deeper. So we're just going to get it in very concise. So we're going to be precise and concise with it, okay? So it's kind of like the Twitter of it all. You only have a certain amount of characters. And what are the initiatives, and how do they connect to other federal funds? So as you can see here, where we have all of our grant programs, what strategies and what funds are you using to support all of your strategies? So data-driven instruction is going to be one of the examples. Across your grant funds, you could connect those dollars. You could connect that funding to support that one initiative, okay? And, oh yeah, so I basically said all of this. So here's a lot of questions. And what we wanted to be is connected to the needs assessment. So if in your particular LEA or if at a particular school, if literacy is a problem, then we should see things where we are focusing in on literacy. If you have initiatives based on you going to support middle school students, then that's what we should see based on your data. Okay? Oh, that's right. So who completes the learning support initiative? Everyone completes phase 1 of the uniform application or central data or what? Everyone, so phase 1 is called a lot of different things, but this is going to happen in phase 1. And our superintendent calls it the super duper extra special consolidated act. Okay. So basically, everyone who's applying to Title I is going to complete this. And this is going to happen in phase 1. When in phase 1, everyone who is receiving Title I dollars, and it's going to be, you're going to identify the initiatives. So what is your strategic plan? What initiatives, what 5, 10 initiatives do you have, 15 do you have for the year? And what federal funds are you going to use to support these initiatives? However, the aligning of the actual dollars and the budgeting is still going to happen in phase 2. But we're going to start thinking earlier in phase 1 about how do we want to use this money? How is this money going to supplement what we want to do for the year? So here's my example. Effective use of data or data-driven instruction. You know, we have a lot of different terms for data, but we're all using data to inform our instruction. Across the board, this is happening. So what could you do? You could have data coaches to assist your teachers in how to improve instruction based on student needs. Who can support that? What grant programs can support that? Perkins can support that. IDEA can support that. Title I, of course, can support that. So this is what we're trying to think of strategically. How are we going to use our funds? Extended time for teachers to review data. This is something that we can support with Title I along with some of our other programs. So this is something that could be connected to that. Job-embedded professional development, Title II. But there's professional development across grant programs, so we could use that as well. So here is our plan for how you actually spend all of those dollars. So when you look at the additional reporting, and when Barry shows you this is really amazing, you're going to see an overview. So you're going to see for this one strategy, so if, for example, SS was data-driven instruction, if that was your strategy 1, you can go across all of these programs to support data-driven instruction. So how are we really leveraging our funds? What's the value add to our funds? So this is what we're going to be able to see, and you're going to be able to pull this report. So when you go to meet with the head of schools, the chancellor, the superintendent, you can say, this is how we are supplementing what's happening in our LEA with these federal dollars. And my sister needs all of these funds and how they all share focus on this one strategy, which we're going to say is data-driven instruction. Sorry, you guys know I was a teacher. Important date for you all to remember. We are pushing, so June 2nd is the launch. We're launching on June 2nd. June 11th is the Federal Grants Conference, and June 25th is the CDO. So I look forward to seeing you guys on June 11th. We're really excited about this. Does anyone have any questions for me right now? Oh, great. Thank you guys so much. Now, when are we signing up for? What day is the conference? Wait a minute. No, it's not. It's early. What time is, when is the conference? Great. Okay, so see you guys then. Doesn't sound like that. I'm going to be there. See you guys then.
Thank you. Okay, again, so what Keyshawn just described is learning support. This will be learning support initiatives, and how this will work going forward. So we pre-populated this particular central data section with 3 strategies. Common Core, where you will provide a description, professional learning, where you will provide a description. Now, you'll notice underneath it is what we're asking for here for this learning support strategy number 2 of the programs listed, and when the EGMS is completed, you'll see all the grant programs under here. From a planning perspective, what we're really trying to find out is not how many dollars at this level or what percentage of your grants at this level will go towards learning support initiative number 2. What we're really trying to understand is, is there, which grant or grants do you think you will be using to fund this learning support initiative? The system is set up for you to put in 1 to 15 learning support initiatives, and these learning support initiatives will flow down through your budgeting section in your application, so that when you insert a line item of expense in your funding application, you can directly attribute it to one of your 1 to 15 learning support initiatives. Okay. It doesn't really pertain to this group, but early childhood will have learning support objectives, which same concept. No, they will have 4 early learning objectives. Yes.
I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but I was just thinking, as you're doing this planning and saying what your different strategies are and which grant programs are going to go along with those strategies, if you go later to, let's say, an amendment to an application, and possibly you want to now use some of your funds, let's say for Perkins, for professional development, but that wasn't, you didn't initially check that when you first did these assurances, are you able to go back and now check Perkins under your professional development support strategy? Are you able to select some of these later, or if you don't select that grant program at the onset, then you can't do it later?
Right. So the question is, when you initially select which grant programs you think are going to fund these learning support initiatives, later on in the year, once you're actually completing an application, do you have to go back and change? No. This initial view of the world is just what it is. From a planning perspective, it's kind of getting you to think through what you're probably going to do. When you actually submit the grant application, it will be attributed to one of the 15, but you may say it's not really a learning support initiative number 2, it's really number 3. But that's okay. This is high-level planning, just so you can start thinking about where you're going to target your funding. Okay? Again, Early childhood will have a similar functionality, except they have 4 specific objectives that they're going to drive down to their CBOs. Let's talk about this central context. When you're completing an application, this is, good morning. So at the central data level, remember, we haven't gotten into the application yet. This is just high-level organization. Who are the primary contacts for the organization? Okay? You'll have to put in a DUNS number, a SAM expiration date, the address, names. Anytime you see a star, that's a required field. Okay? Now the SAM expiration date, when you after you submit an application, it's approved, and you actually start submitting reimbursement requests. The reimbursement request has to be within your approved SAM expiration date, so that when OSSI starts checking reimbursement, if your SAM expiration date has passed, you'll get a reminder to go back and update your SAM expiration number so that your reimbursement request can be processed. Yes. Did you have a question? Okay, good deal. So we talked about assurances, and let me go back one for a moment. Okay, when we redesigned the site, when you see it on June 2nd, in this central data tab, you're not only going to see central data, you're going to see phase 1 CONAP assurances. You'll see phase 1 IDEA SPED Part B assurances as well. Where we are right now, they're still included within our assurances tab. Okay, again, we're reading from left to right. Assurance is, the background is white, meaning that's the section we're in, and this has a two-layer tab structure. So now we're on general. Important for you to note, reviewing assurances is very similar. Reviewing and approving your assurances is very similar to reviewing terms for a credit card. You're going to read all the information. You're going to check a box that says, I read everything and I agree, and then you're going to submit. So you see at the top, we have, by checking this box and saving the page, the applicant hereby certifies that he or she has read, understood, and will comply with the assurances listed below. Okay. At the bottom of the page, there's a Save Page button. If you have not selected the box up top, you will not be able to save the page. So again, it's read the assurances, check the box that you certify that you've read them, and then come down and save page. Now, central data is where you're going to agree to these assurances. Once you get into completing the application, it will have required you to approve your assurances in central data prior to you being able to submit your application. Okay, so there are higher level assurances, and in some applications that you fill out, there will be application-specific assurances that are not general, but specifically for the application. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, so here are the general assurances. So now we've added another layer here. Now we're in the consolidated assurances. And they're Title I Part A assurances, Title I Part B assurances, Title III Part A, additional equitable services, and statewide accountability. Again, in translating the paper document to web format, this is the structure that we're using. To make it easier to follow, we are pulling out the consolidated app assurances and the IDA Part B assurances. But this is the similar structure. Read from left to right. The clear background is the tab that you're on, and this, we're on the third level. For IDA assurances, these are program specific and reporting. Again, you'll check the box. And in this particular case, for DCPS only, there are some instructions around assurance number 7 and a save page at the bottom. Okay? Okay. And this assurances agreement, as you fill in, and again, when we do the redesign of this particular section, you'll see the general, you'll see the CONAP assurances, you'll see IDA Part B assurances. These will be automatically selected as you review and accept the assurances for that section. And then you'll put the date in and the legal entity agrees. Again, the only person who can actually submit this page is the authorized representative within the organization. Data entry person can fill out all the data, but data entry role will not allow you to submit, okay, either assurances or an application or a reimbursement request. Okay, so as you get allocations, this allocation summary will show all your allocations. It will show a grant summary. Again, with this is a new LEA. When you open up your site, this is what you're going to have. Then we'll be able to summarize by learning support initiative, by object code, and again, for the authorized representative, again, we're in central data. The authorized representative can open pages for editing or lock them down. So once the information is completed and you want to control any changes, you can lock down all the pages or open specific pages for editing. Okay, and as changes occur during the year, you can go back in and submit an updated central data information. And let me do one thing. We use DCPS as an example in our test environment. I just want you to see what those filled out pages might look like for you. Okay, so this is your allocation summary tab, and again, once you start receiving allocation, these numbers are fictitious. These are numbers we put in to test out the system, but I just want you to see the information that you'd be able to see on your allocations page. Okay. And we'll go to the grant summary page as well. Just a little slow, just a moment. And here's your grant summary page. And again, these are your grants down the left. The categories across the top are salaries. 100 will be salaries and benefits, and there's facilities and professional services, so you can see where you've actually allocated your funds. And Keyshawn talked about getting a view of how you distributed your funds against your learning support initiatives. So as you fill out grant applications and you attribute funds to different one of your 1 to 15 learning support initiatives, this summary will show you where you're spending your money. So if your number one initiative has 5% of your funding, you know, in theory you want to do highest to lowest on your initiatives. It just gives you a good idea of where you're spending your money. And from a more global perspective, when Dr. Morris Hughes is in a meeting with the superintendent or representatives from the Department of Education, and they ask her, so help me understand how your LEAs are spending their funding. Because we put it in a similar format and we rolled it out across grant programs, it'll be much easier for her to say, you know, by LEA or by district, you know, here is how we've decided to direct our funding. Okay, and again, and this reporting is automatic. I mean, it's really more there for you to see where you're spending your money than anything else. Now I'm going to go back. Okay. So again, first time on the system, this is really what you're going to see when you log in, right? I logged into DCPS. You could see an LEA full of activity. Well, we've been using DCPS as one of our primary testing sites within the system, so that's why you see all the information under DCPS. Once you get going and you start getting, you start completing applications, getting allocations, winning awards, then your site will look just like theirs. But this is really where we want to start at completing any application. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll pick it up again at 10:05.
Bathrooms for women, if you go straight across through the double doors, it'll be
Okay, so again, when we first log in, your screens are going to look fairly blank. Okay, you'll see that we haven't created any formula, we haven't created any application. We started creating an application in Central Data. Nothing that's non-funded or spend plan. Now let's go down to see what's available. Under available grants, you're going to see we have started putting in some formula grants that are available and some competitive grants that are available. A couple of things to note about this section. Chevron is really the controlling drop-down function. If there's a consolidated application, if you select the Chevron, you'll see what grant programs are included under that heading. Okay, now notice there's only a create button next to the consolidated level application. So when you create an application, for example, for IDA Part B, it will create the consolidated application with all the sub-applications included. Same thing for the CONAP or Charter School Planning and Implementation. Again, that's the Chevron drops things down. You'll also note submission dates, when applications are due by. In the case of competitive grants, right now we just have submission date here. There will also be a time. If it's by a date at a time, you'll see the date and the time. And I know I'm talking about this later, but two big differences between formula and competitive. On the competitive grant side, if an application is due at 2 o'clock, your submit button disappears exactly at 2 o'clock. Okay? Yes, exactly. Formula grants are different. The program offices suggest when the application wants to be done. But the submit button does not disappear. On competitive grants, the submit button does disappear and you're out. Okay? Okay. So again, what you see under Perkins Secondary, for example, is that there is one application. There aren't multiple applications within it. Okay. So I'm going to create a consolidated application. Okay, so again, grant EGMS 101, read from left to right. The background that's in white is the tab that we're looking at. In this particular case, there's an overview page. Every grant that we've done within the system, we provide an overview page. The application name, due date, if it's consolidated, which programs are included within the application, general purpose, links to any specific information, and then general information. Okay, again, you'll see this over and over again. This tab structure remains the same as you go through the EGMS. Okay, contact information. I thought we just did contact information in central data. Remember we said central data information is really high-level organizational information. Within an organization, different people have different responsibilities for different grants. So we're within this application. Okay, this is your organization, and this is the application, and the cycle is original. Okay, meaning this isn't amendment 1 of the application. It's actually the original application. This is the funding cycle, and up to the top right, there's a drop-down window. So if you're within a consolidated application, which is the level we're at now is highlighted in blue. We're at the consolidated application level. You can also go into the Consolidated School-Wide Sub-Application, Title 1A, Title 2A, and Title 3A application from that drop-down menu. Okay, another feature about this, we said originally that only the authorized representative can submit or sign assurances, submit an application, or reimbursement request. If that person wants other people other than him or herself to receive notifications on revise and resubmits or acceptances or rejections, then the authorized rep should check this checkbox that says, we want to add some additional names here so that the authorized rep isn't the only one getting notifications. And you can add up to 5. Okay? So that if you submit your Phase 1 assurances and it's returned to revise and resubmit, the authorized representative may want 3, 4, or up to 5 people to get those notifications as well. Now remember, the authorized rep is the only role that can submit an application, a reimbursement request, or sign assurances, but you'd want someone else within the organization to receive these notifications. And again, this is specific to this application, okay? And within every application, up to 5 people can be added as additional contact. Does not have to be the same 5. It can be a different 5 for every application. Okay? So I'm going to deselect this. Again, where you see asterisks, information is required. And I'm going to leave out the phone number here for a moment. Okay, so I was quick on the submit button. So what happens if you hit enter or you try to save page when not all the information is completed? You'll get an error message. This page has not been saved due to the following. All required fields for educational agency contact must be completed. For primary LEA contact must be completed. And for additional LEA contact must be completed. Okay? So I'm just going to input some information here. Okay. Okay, so I've filled in everything. Now I'm going to try to save page again. Now, the system has been set up so that it recognizes the format of a real email address. So it's telling us email must be entered in a valid format. And again, I know this was it. Now I'm going to save page, no errors. Okay, so I'm going to say Rule 101. I've given you a couple so far, right? So Rule 101, save your page. Once you submit information, save page. Save page is if there's something missing or if there's an error, you'll get error messages right at the top of the page. Okay, so we corrected the errors. We hit save page and nothing. Okay, this is not a positive affirmation system, meaning that if it's good, you're not going to get a message saying congratulations. Okay, you will either not get an error message or it will allow you to save with no error messages. Okay? In this particular application, there's also LEA certification materials. that are required. The system does allow you to upload files. So I'm just going to upload a test file. Okay, and the system allows PDF and will allow Word and Excel documents as well. So I've selected the file, and I'm going to press the upload button. And now here, you'll see the file that was uploaded. Now, the thing about the system is if you make a mistake and upload a file that's incorrect, you can't delete the file that you uploaded. You can just go back in and create a new, add the correct file.
What you mean, yeah, I mean delete?
Well, in this particular case, I had uploaded a file prior to this. The system doesn't have a delete file function. Okay, so this file that I entered first is going to stay within the system.
And you all have access to that file as well? Just curious. I mean, you're telling me that if we end up uploading an incorrect file, that it would just remain accessible from you or from that end, from our event?
Yes.
As well?
That's correct. Okay. In the case of CONAP, there is an intervention strategies work area for those of you that have to submit an intervention strategies section with your application. And again, we're reading from left to right. The box with the white background is the section we're on, and we're on this sub-tab, LEA status. And it allows you to put in priorities 1 through 7. Okay. So again, this is your typical consolidated application, similar with Title 1A set-asides. Okay.
So I saw within there it said this LEA has not been identified, so you don't have to submit that section. Is that going to be real? Like, if we really aren't selected, it'll tell us?
Yeah, the program office will predetermine who's required to fill out that information.
Then it'll be in there.
Yes. Now, this is where formula grants, before the application is released, OSSI program office has to provide allocations. In this particular case, we've been provided allocations. $200,000 for Title I Part A, $30,000 for Title II Part A, and only $5,000 for Title III Part A. Okay. On this allocations page, you'll notice towards the bottom, the program office is asking, what do you think your frequency for submitting reimbursement workbooks is going to be? And the system, our terminology is reimbursement request. You use reimbursement workbooks. We're asking you to say whether you're going to submit monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly. This is really so that they can track submissions. If you say you're going to submit monthly and you haven't submitted monthly, someone can call you and say, you said you were going to be submitting monthly. The system is set up so that you can submit a reimbursement request every other hour, every other day, twice a week. There's no limitation on how many reimbursement requests you can submit through the system. It's really up to your program office. You're working with your program office to decide what frequency is allowable to them. Okay. Now, I've reviewed my allocations page, and I'm going to hit Save Page. Okay. And again, it's telling me I have to do something here. Okay. Now, on the prior page, you saw we had to do something. We did it. Now, I'm going to say, okay, I read this message. I think I want to go back here for a minute. Okay, I got that. Let me go back to my allocations page. Okay, the error message disappeared. Okay, now the interesting part about that is, let's say you know you need to check something, you forgot. There's one other time where you're going to catch this error, and that's when you actually submit. We have a process on submit called consistency check, and we'll go through that in a little bit, that will basically read back through your entire application to make sure that everywhere a required field was there, that there was information put in a required field. Everywhere an upload was required, a document was uploaded. Okay, this will keep you from submitting an application and then program office saying, hey, you didn't fill out this form, you didn't give me this piece of information. The consistency check, we can let the computer do that type of information for us. Now, what it won't do is read what you wrote and say, oh, that's a good answer. But what it will do is say that information was entered into this cell. Okay, so in this particular case, we're going to say, and again, this is for the program office, we think we're going to submit a reimbursement request once a month, and we're going to save the page. Again, no shouts or dancing or clapping, it's just okay. If we didn't do something and we tried to save the page, you would get an error message. Funding distribution. So this really says, what do we have for allocations for this grant? Nothing for school-wide. We have $200,000 for Title 1A, $30,000 for Title 2A, and $5,000 for Title 3A. The way the system operates, school-wide does not get funding. You actually attribute funds to the school-wide application. So when you see this originally, you're going to see your allocations as they were given. On the left side, you'll see here are our current year funds. Now, one of the reasons OSSI decided to go with an enterprise grants management system is that the system has the ability to track funds from a prior year and pull them over into a current year. They carry over funding. And what it's going to allow the system to do is it's going to spend the oldest money first. Okay, so the system will try to reduce or eliminate the amount of funds that get expired without being used. Okay, so if you had prior year carryover, you'll see it in this prior year funds section. In this multi-district section, if you consolidated your funds with another LEA because the funding that you received was less than you needed, you'll see that here in the multi-district area. And for this particular grant, on Title 3A, if you were allocated less than $10,000, you have to form a consortium or return the money to OSSI for redistribution. And there's probably at least one other option. But for this particular grant, for Title 3A, you have to have at least $10,000 to do any programming with it. Okay, and where does that come into play? I'm scrolling down to the bottom of this sheet, and you'll see we have no allocation for school-wide. Title 1A has $200,000, and Title 2A has $30,000. But the funds for Title 3A are not available. And again, that's because the program office has determined that you need at least $10,000 to run a successful program here. So now, we saw up front that school-wide did not have any allocation. In this particular case, you have to attribute funds to the school-wide program. So what we're going to do for this example is I'm going to take $50,000 from my Title 1A funding, and I'm going to take $15,000 from my Title 2A funding, and I'm going to attribute it to the school-wide program. Okay, I'm going to hit Calculate Total. Okay, and you'll see down at the bottom that my my net adjustment, I've debited $50,000 from Title 1A and $15,000 from Title 2A to go towards statewide or school-wide. But I don't see the allocation actually moved over to school-wide. This calculate totals function, and it works on every page. All it does is it's a math calculation within the sheet. You actually have to save the page for the funds to be transferred over. Okay, so I'm going to save page. And again, we're going to scroll back down. And there's my $65,000 attributed to the school-wide program. Okay? Again, at the top, you see my initial allocations. You can see where I've decided to transfer funds to my school-wide program. And suppose I say, wow, I really didn't want to do that. I've already saved a page. It's okay. We can make edits. Until you submit the application, you can make as many edits as you want. So I'm going to say I really didn't want $15,000 here. Let's say I wanted $25,000, not $125. I'm going to calculate the totals again. Okay, you'll see my 50 and 25, but my school-wide allocation has not changed because I didn't save the page. So now if I save the page, my school-wide allocation has been updated. Okay? Remember, there's a calculate function, and you'll see that on the budget pages. There's a calculate function and a save page function. Okay? And again, you can change this 100 times between now and the time you submit your application. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to hold on going through submit and print. What I want to do is go to my sub-application level. Okay? So now I'm going to go to the school-wide program. And again, this is, if you think about the consolidated application, as much common information as possible we put up at the consolidated level, and what we kept down at the program level are really program-specific information. Again, we're going to read from left to right. Here's an overview. And then what makes this particular consolidated applications in general, you're going to see a detailed planned expenditures tab. This is where you develop your budget for your program. Okay? It looks just like this for every grant program. There are some programs, though, like the school equipment grant program that doesn't need professional services or property services or salaries and benefits. You won't see those tabs, but this structure of capturing budget information spans across the entire OSSI program level. And why do we do that? Again, it kind of gets back to the district wanting to aggregate its grant funding. How did you distribute your funding, and how are we expending against that? This just gives a way for OSSI to create common reporting across its empire. There's a budget overview tab. Okay, and then we get into salaries and benefits. Now, if you remember from the allocation page, we allocated $75,000 for this particular budget. Okay, another formula versus competitive difference. In formula grants, when we get through this entire budget summary, this budget section, we have to have budgeted $75,000 exactly, not a penny more or a penny less. Okay? And once you've created these budgets, when you start doing your reimbursement request, you're going to be asking for reimbursements against the same budget lines that you submitted in this process. So you will no longer be able to submit a reimbursement request against something that's not budgeted. You would have to do a budget amendment in order to do that, which is certainly allowable. Okay? and your reimbursement request now will not be able to exceed that amount. So if you budgeted for $10,000, for example, in salary and benefits, you can't request $10,001. The system will not allow you to do it. Okay? All right. So in this particular case, we have a function called campus-based budgeting. Some programs or some grant programs want to see budget level detail down to campus. So in this drop-down window, you'll be able to select which site. 000 is always the central office, and then there will be another site level. DCPS will have 100 or so, and depending upon which LEA you have different campus buildings. Each one will be listed. Okay, and I'm just going to go through one particular completion here. Trainer. Let's do the name. Okay, under program category, we're saying instruction. These drop downs for program categories, these will vary by grant program. Okay, in the case of CONAP for school-wide, these are the program categories that expenses are allowed for. Under learning support initiatives, this again is where you filled out your 1 to 15 learning support initiatives in your central data section. And when you get here, this is where you actually say, okay, this particular expense is going against learning support initiative 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And we asked when you completed or defined them, you gave us a 25-letter description of what that learning support initiative is. It's going to vary by LEA, but these are your learning support initiatives. And I'm going to say it's for Common Core Standards, and I'm going to say it's 1 FTE, and I'm going to say this is $20,000. Okay, again, I'm going to calculate totals. Okay, you see my $20,000 that I'm budgeting. However, I have not saved the page, so now I'm going to save the page. Okay. So now you see I have $20,000 for this line item. I have $55,000 remaining to budget. Okay. And then we can go to professional services and do the same thing. Okay. A lot of these categories are similar across, and this is how you go through and complete your budget section of an application. Property services. Equipment. Supplies and material. They all look very similar format. Give us a description, tell us what it is. What you have to be thoughtful of when you're completing your application budget. These line items, these categories, are what you're going to be able to submit reimbursement requests against. So spend some time and make sure you have the right budget lines created. Now, once submitted, you will only be able to change it by submitting an amendment. Okay, so amendments are allowed. You won't be able to submit a reimbursement request unless it's budgeted, and you can't submit a reimbursement request for greater than the budgeted amount. Okay, again, similar for fixed property costs. Other objects. Okay, and then when you get completed with your budget, there's a budget summary, which shows for activity code 10, instruction, salaries and benefits, we have $20,000. And again, what you want to do is to make sure that you have budgeted your $75,000 for this particular application, which is the school-wide program. Now, if we go into Title 1A, very similar. Again, and I'm going to repeat myself here, we're going to read left to right. The tab that's in white is the tab that we're on. Each grant application has an overview section with relevant information for you. Okay, and it's going to vary and it'd be very specific to the application that we're looking at. In this particular case, there's a needs assessment section. Where date information is required, selection of information is required, and again, there's a Save Page button. For program design, there's a section for school-wide, targeted assistance, and involvement of parents and community members. And then we're back to the familiar. This budget section flows across all grant programs. Okay, and we took money out to go to statewide or school-wide programs, so you're left with $150,000. You have to budget to $150,000, not a penny more, not a penny less. Okay, and these categories are the same across this program. And I'm just going to flip through Title 2A. Again, there's an overview. Needs assessment and planning. A summary of planned expenditures. And then back to the familiar detail of planned expenditures. As I said earlier, a lot of the content is going to be very familiar with you. It's going to take a little time for you to get through navigating the system and the inputs that are required. This is Title 3A, and again, this note. In this particular program, a subgrantee or LEA with less than $10,000 in Title 3A fund allocation must either join a consortium or release funds back to OSSI on the funding distribution tab at the consolidated level. LEAs will not be able to submit an application that has less than $10,000 in Title 3A fund allocation. So if you're not sure about the consortium or a consortium partner, but you want to hold, you can submit your application without returning the money to OSSI if you think you're going to join a consortium. So there was a checkbox back. Let me go back here. I'm going back up to the consolidated application level, to funding distribution. In this particular case, this checkbox was set up so that this particular LEA didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to join a consortium. They didn't want to do anything, so they decided to give the $5,000 back to OSSI for redistribution. You check this box, and the money would be reallocated for other programs.
So I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, we submitted our LEA plan with our application.
Mm-hmm.
So would we be attaching that to this or that?
If you're doing a consortium?
I mean, consolidated.
Well, this consolidated, it's one application that's broken into two sections. You're familiar with phase one, which is agreeing to your assurances.
Right.
Along with assurances, we're asking you to complete your central data section, which are common information, and then identifying your learning support initiatives. That's phase one. Phase two now are the three programs together in the consolidated application.
Right.
So all three of those will have to be completed prior to you submitting the consolidated application.
Right, but I mean, like, when we submitted our LEA plan
Mm-hmm.
before,
Mm-hmm.
those areas where you talked about the LSI,
Mm-hmm.
would that
Learning.
now be considered
Yes.
the LEA plan, or is the LEA plan going to be a separate item?
That's still a separate, like, Word document or something
Yeah.
that we have to upload
Well,
somewhere.
within the application, anything that you have to submit will be spelled out specifically for you. So if there's a section for you to put a plan, it's been designed into the application. And if it's required for you to upload a document, it will explain, please upload this information.
Okay, but is it on there, or should we be expecting a another email, or and maybe that's a question for the
And be
Yeah, it probably is a program question, but I don't think you're going to have anything additional outside of EGMS. So like Barry said, if it's a requirement for your grant, it will be embedded in this application. So if you don't see it, then you don't need to do it. The whole idea of this is to automate everything so that you're not having to send separate pieces along, at different times.
Mm-hmm.
So once you complete your phase one and then you get approval, then if it's in your application, you'll see a tab for it, for your LEA plan. But from my memory of going through these, I don't believe it's in there. But if it is something they need you to upload, it will be very clear in the application that you'll need to do that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It causes me some concern, some pause, because it is such a large portion of this receiving of the title, the consolidated funds. So if it's not, I'll send it.
Okay.
Let me just make a quick note of that. Or Nancy, you going to make a note of that for me? Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to the consolidated application level. Remember, we did the funding distribution section. Let's assume we've completed all the information at the consolidated level. We've dropped down to the sub-application level, Title I, Title II, Title IIIA. We've completed that. We think we're ready to go. Now we're ready to submit an application. Okay, so you'll get a note that assurances must be reviewed and approved before you can submit your application. In central data, we looked at them, but we didn't approve them, so you'll get this message. And I talked earlier about this function called consistency check. I think I'm ready to submit. Now this is going to save you a lot more on competitive applications than formula, but the function is the same. I think I'm ready to submit. I'm going to do a consistency check. Consistency check is going to go back through the entire submission to make sure anywhere that there was required field to be completed, it was completed. If an attachment was mandatory, then it will register that that attachment was submitted. It's not going to read the attachment and say that the attachment was good. It's just going to say that an attachment was submitted when an attachment was required. Okay. Beginning date cannot. Okay. Okay. Let me go back 1 second. Since I didn't fill out everything, it's burping on me, so let me just do one thing here. Okay, I just logged back into DCPS application for a moment. When you're running this consistency check, it can take up to 45 seconds depending upon the traffic. So leave yourself enough time to do a consistency check before an application is due, and this is what will happen. For a particular application, this is CONAP. We're in the DCPS environment because we have more data in the system. It'll say consolidated application. There's an error at set aside summary, school-wide program, past consistency checks, so we're good. Here are the other error messages for Title 1A, Title 2A, and Title 3A is good. If you navigate away from this page, let me see if I go back to my funding distribution page, and then I come back to my submit page, the errors are gone. The errors are still there, but when you navigate away from the page, the result of that consistency check goes away. So when you do a consistency check, I'm just going to do it one more time, for example, here. When you get the list of errors, print screen or write down the errors so you can go back to those particular errors and correct them, and then come back and run consistency check. You can run this consistency check as often as you like until you get a completed application with all the required fields or uploads completed. Okay? So do a print screen or print this page. If I wanted to print this page, up in the top right, underneath this drop down, you see printer friendly. I'll select printer friendly and it's gone. All right, let me just try this one more time. Sorry, guys. Make a note for me.
Is there any way to have this be linked so that I can go back to the previous time?
No, because there are, hundreds of required fields in any application. This particular the design for this wasn't built to take you back via a link. Okay, so then you could print this page. I'm not going to select printer friendly again. I thought it would stay there, but because it's leaving the page to change the view, it goes away. Okay. The next tab available after submit is application print. Now, when we say application print, the system will generate a PDF of your application. If it's completely filled out or if it's a new application, you can select print. The system is set up to print PDFs on the hour, every hour, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we can do something more specific in emergency scenarios, but generally what we want to do is select what we want to print, and this prints, we can print the entire application or specific pieces of it. And I'm just going to do Title 3. And I'm going to request print. And what you'll see for this particular case is this is when I made my print request at 10:55 a.m. on 5/19. Around 11:02, this request will drop down to the completed print jobs section, and they stay in that for about 2 weeks before they are deleted. And then if you right-click, you can save it, or you can just click on it directly. And the PDF version comes up for you to save. Okay?
Does this only get generated after you save and submit your application?
You can do this anytime along the way. So if you complete half the application and you've saved the pages along the way and you want to print out what you've done so far, just go to this tab, hit print, and like I say, every hour on the hour from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., it'll print a batch PDF, and when you log in and you go to this print page, you'll see that your job moved from requested print down to printed.
Well, I think the only two ways for you to see where you're going to print fire, so it's a consistency check, and then when you do this print request, is that the only way you can see your entire application? Just to review for any errors, or just
Well,
to make sure?
you can run a consistency check at any time along the way. And if you get a clean consistency check, then you know it's done. If you get errors, that's when you know you're missing information. And it's going to tell you specifically within the application where to go to find the errors. Now, if you're working on a page and you try to save it and you get errors, you can correct it at that time. If you, for somehow, missed a page altogether or a section, it'll show up in this consistency check. Okay, did I answer your question?
I'm just thinking like FAFSA, right? If you have something that you misspelled or something that, you put in the wrong address, like the address is in the correct format, but you put it in wrong. So there's no way, for you to review it at the end unless you do the print.
Right, but it's a PDF version. It's an electronic document. So, you're not wasting paper, and this is going to be, 50, 60 pages of application. So all you're doing at that point is you have a PDF document that shows what you have filled out, and you can scroll through on your screen, or you can physically print that document from there if you like.
But you have to wait an hour.
Yes. But,
You can always go back to the tab, correct? Like you can always go
yeah,
back
you can go back to the tab and print a.
double check your information.
Yeah, you can print a specific page in print-friendly format, but if you want to print the entire application, it's on the hour, every hour from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Because there are so many requests could come in for printing, it's easier on the system for them to do batch printing once an hour. Didn't buy that one?
I'm sorry.
I say you didn't buy that?
Yes, I mean, that's not really, I don't think it's very user-friendly because at 4:15, I may need to see my application for whatever reason, and I have to wait till 5.
Well, remember, you can always see it, but printing that's just how the system has been set up.
But you said I can print, you said you can print a page at any time.
Yeah, you can print a page anytime you want.
So if I wanted to sit there and print out 50 pages at 4:15, I could do that if I absolutely need to.
That's correct.
Okay, that's fine.
And-
I didn't know there was another workaround.
And again, that's the default for the system. If through your conferences and feedback to OSSI, the programs decide that they would like to print more often than once on the hour, then that's a decision that Dr. Morris Hughes can make with the
And it's
design.
once on the hour. It's not you have to wait an hour. So if I do it at 10:55 at 11, it'll be ready. I don't have to
11:02.
wait till
No. It's not an hour from when you requested it.
it's on the hour.
8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and we'll go back to this.
If you want it at 01, then that's the problem. You
Right.
don't have to wait an hour.
That's right. That's right.
So to the print the page, I can, okay. That's
You can
fine.
print a page.
Like a workaround.
Hey, you can print an individual page or pages one at a time at any time. But if you want to print the entire document, that's where they're batch creating PDF documents. Miriam?
So you say it's print page anytime?
Correct.
You say you can hit print screen and print page?
Yes, you can do.
Saying that within the application, you can press the application. So it's two different things.
That's correct. You can do a print screen. You can also print a friendly print. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, but that only gives you that page. If you want to get the entire application, you do have to print the application and wait until the top of the hour to get the electronic version.
And that's 7 days a week?
7 days a week, Monday through Friday. Again, this is how the defaults have been set up for the system. If Dr. Morris Hughes decides she wants to do something else, then we'll work with the design team to do something else. But that's how this system has been set up. Okay? Okay. And then in this particular application, again, I logged in as DCPS because in this particular test environment, we have actually submitted an application. So here's what's kind of new. The system tracks where everything is for you. So you don't have to call around to figure out where my application is, what happened to it. Okay? You'll get a status. It was submitted to OSSI by the district representative or authorized representative on 2/28/14. It was returned for changes on 4/30 by Rhonda Kardash. Okay? Now, this timing isn't applicable to how the review goes, but in the test environment, you can see that when we were testing, this particular application was submitted, reviewed, and returned for changes. Okay? And the same function is available for reimbursement requests also. You'll be able to see literally where your reimbursement request is, what status it is, dates and times.
I'm glad I made it for that. You know how you said it was going to come back? That's exactly what I wanted to come back with. That's my favorite part.
Question about the claim part as well. Is it going to tell us as far as the payment?
We'll get to that in just a moment. Okay, 1 second.
Yeah. All that other stuff.
Okay, so again, you've gotten through your application, you've hit consistency check, it's gone through, and let me just go back to one for a moment. Okay, as you start filling out applications and you make changes, the drop down under the revision will always show you, if you see Amendment 1, you know there's an original application. If you're on Amendment 2, you know there's an original application, Amendment 1, and Amendment 2. Okay? So I'm just going to go back to the original application. And I'm going to go to a review summary. I can't do review summary here. Again, this is our test environment. I'm playing around it. Okay. So because this application has been submitted, no other activity will be allowed. Okay. It's 11:05. Let's take another 5-minute break, and then when we come back, we'll go through reimbursement requests, and that's about 25 minutes worth of information, and then we should be able to wrap up. Thank you.